So hello everybody, thank you for being here, even though there's a lot of heat. And so the first question I wanted to ask, so is there anyone who doesn't speak Slovak or doesn't understand Slovak, so I can speak Slovak? Or I can continue in English, or I can switch to Slovak. Okay, I guess I will continue in English if that's okay for you. Okay, so about me, I'm a former full stack developer and cloud architect. I've something like 12 years of experience, and currently, 5 years ago, I co-founded a startup called StackTape. We're currently at the seed stage, and we basically automate the deployment to AWS. Okay, so let's get into it. So first off, I want to just give you some context about all the different AI tooling there is, because there's a lot of tools, and sometimes there overlap, and people usually don't understand which tool is meant for whom. So first off, I will talk about web editors. These are basically for, I would say, business people, or like a very simple or like medium complexity apps, and you can basically use them from your web editor, or like from web. You don't need to install anything. And the most popular one is Lovable. So this is by the way the fastest growing Europe startup ever. So they're growing like crazy, and I believe you will heard of them. So their platform is you basically tell it, I want to implement this, and this, and it implements it for you. Then it shows you how it looks, and then you can edit it just by talking to it. Basically a vibe coding assistant. People, when using these tools, people usually are concerned about security, because some of these tools they can only generate, for example, like web front end, so without the database. So there you don't have to be so much concerned about security. But for example, Lovable and also Replit, they also offer you to host like backend. So you can basically have some to store data, and if you store data or if you need login or something, then you need some security. And very recently, Lovable added also like they're doing basically some security audit or like security scanning of your code. So it should be able to catch some errors, but I haven't tried it myself. But from what I've heard, these tools can be great. They can be great for like marketing websites or like simple websites, or from product managers they want to quickly try something. But these tools are not what we are here for, right? But I just wanted to distinguish between these and the real code editors. So the IDEs, like real IDEs, they basically have to install on your machine, and they support like a lot more functionality. So they are like, for example, one of them is Cursor, the one that we're here for. But a lot of you may know Windsurf, what it was formerly called Codium, and very recently OpenAI acquired them for $3 billion. And maybe you know Augmentcode. I believe a lot of you know GitHub Copilot. And there's also something called Kodi, which is like an extension for Visual Studio Code, which is like more privacy friendly or enterprise friendly, I would say. So enterprises that fear about like their data or like code security, I believe like this is the one to go for. But I can't talk about them because I haven't used them myself. I only I used Cursor, I used Windsurf, I used Copilot, and I will talk about my experience. And next, I want to talk about some. So if we go even deeper into the coding tools, then we can see that there's like something called agentic tools, and how they basically work completely autonomously. So you basically just they don't run on your machine; they run in the cloud. You tell them, do this PR, change this code, do this, and they will basically run in the background. And then when they're finished, they will create a pull request, then which you can review and accept. And so for example, Devin AI, they are also trying to do something like automate doing tasks from Fiverr, or like the issues on GitHub which have like bounty on them. So and they earn money like this. Basically, completely autonomously. I believe like it's early for these tools. I mean, they can be used for some use cases, but in general, from what I've heard, it's like very narrow set of use cases that exist for them now. I would say that is my experience. But also very recently, I believe just yesterday, Cursor they released something called background agents, and so this is basically the agentic tools that can they run in the background and can do stuff for you. And also the one there are other type of AI tools which you can use, and it's like QA and code review tools. Famous, like I believe, like the most used one is the CodeRabbit, and it basically when somebody creates a pull request in your repository, it scans it, like it checks. I mean, like some of these checks which CodeRabbit is doing, they were possible to do even before just using static code analysis. But for example, like fixing linter errors or like TypeScript bugs, or I don't know, like some security issues which can be statically analyzed. But the CodeRabbit it does more. So, for example, it checks if the code consistency, or like it checks for certain design patterns if you're using them or not. And so it's deep. It's more deep. I personally haven't used these tools, so I can't talk about myself. But from what I've heard or what I've read, people quite like these tools quite a lot. So maybe we can give them a shot. Okay, so I should talk about using these AI agentic tools. So the first category, as I mentioned, is for business people, and all the other tools like the IDEs are for the developers, I would say. So, but the way that people should use them differs based on like if you're a junior dev, a medium developer, or senior developer. So, like if you're a junior dev, so a lot of people can want to start generating code. Or okay, so I got this task and I gave it to I wrote it to ChatGPT and I just copied the code and I pushed it. And that's exactly the way you'll get fired or you will get obsolete. You basically need to do the task that you got from your superior. You need to do it yourself, and you need to understand like what's happening behind the scenes, and only that way you can become medium developer or eventually senior developer. And even so, for medium developers, they can understand the code. They basically can read like what output they got from the AI tool. But I will also say like you can basically you can get the code from AI, you can review it, and you can push it. But that's also not a very good idea, I would say, because you don't understand like why some design decisions that were made in the code. So for example, like let's say you are choosing so you get task, for example, like implement reCAPTCHA for your some like form when you're submitting some forms from public. And so you give it to ChatGPT. It generates code. It uses certain tool for doing your reCAPTCHA, and you don't know why it chose that one, and you don't know like is it the right tool, or like why haven't we used some other tool? And so, for example, when we'll be talking about this, then you won't know. You basically won't know like what were the design decisions behind the scenes, and that way it's a sure way to stay at the medium level. And if you're a senior dev, just please give especially junior devs some room, because they need to become senior developers, and they can only do it if you give them a chance. And but I should mention that the dev jobs market is down quite a bit. I believe like between 2022 and the first half of 2023, there were like 80% of development job postings lost. So it was like very, very bad. And I believe for senior developers or developers that can leverage AI to be effective, I believe like the market rebound. But for junior developers, it's going to be tough, I believe. So you need to, like, if you're a junior developer, you need to put in extra effort if you want to be successful in the AI age. So also like what code bases are is this AI thing for? So yeah, it works well for new projects. It's very good at scaffolding new projects and just doing some structure and like some basic layout. But even even before, you could have used things like just do some boilerplate project that had everything configured. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's that useful for that. But if you are creating a greenfield project, then it's less likely that you will get some hallucinations and the code just won't work. And also, I should mention that it works better for small projects rather than large ones, because of the things that I will talk about later. But it has something to do with the context window and how large it is. Okay, so you may ask why Cursor? Why haven't I used like GitHub Copilot or Windsurf? And I have two reasons. First is that Cursor is probably the most popular one currently. And the second reason is that they have their own tab completion model, which maybe you haven't used because I believe it's only on the paid tier. But it's very good. It works like magic, and I can show you. So I have some like a very basic repository created. This is like a full stack React application that uses Prisma to access the database, and it has some React frontend and Node.js or Express.js server running on the backend. And so let's say I wanted to add some like a field to the frontend. I want to show one more field on my posts. Because this application is about just shows posts. So I can, let's say I would say let's do appendices. Let's do that. So I added this here, and for some reason okay. So sorry, I probably haven't gotten the autocomplete because I have some files I need to reject first. Yeah. Okay, so now it doesn't work, but what it usually does is that since I added this appendices field there, that it would probably just directly move me to like a server where I would just, for example, like send also this field to the front end. We're sending all the fields. But when I go to my front end of the application, then it can. It knew that I wanted to add the appendices. So it just monitors what I'm working on, and it remembers what I'm doing. And so the autocomplete is very good. Before they released their own model, I believe it's called Fusion or something like that. It's the proprietary model that only works in the Cursor. These tab completions were kind of like helpful, but not really, I would say. But now they are really, really helpful, and it's like a huge difference. It really improves my productivity, and I would say like the amount of hallucinations is very low, and that's that. And also I would mention that Cursor, they were also approached by OpenAI to acquire them, and even for like way more than $3 billion, and they refused because they believe they will win anyway. Like they can win on their own, and I also believe they can. And from what I don't want to do like an advertisement for them, but when I've seen some certain features, I believe like most of the new features I've seen in these editors, I've seen in Cursor. So that's that. Okay, and now we're finally getting into what you all came here for. So tips and tricks. So first thing is Cursor rules. You probably know about these, and also like all the other code editors have them. So you basically write these rules. Somewhere. I don't know. Okay. Oh, Cursor settings. Yeah. So It's basically you just write a file when you define some certain rules for your project. For example, like use only, I would say, like arrow functions if you're using a TypeScript, or use only types. Don't use interfaces and things like this. And these can be per project or like per your workspace. And yeah, so if I want, I can add a new rule here, but basically nothing special. I mean, like all the other AI code editing tools support this, but the interesting thing is that you don't need to come up with them on your own, like with these rules, because there are there's also like a cursor directory, which where you can find like a lot of different. Yeah, a lot of different rules, or these rules you can also think about them as a system prompt. So basically, this is the thing that gets sent to the large language model before you get back the answer. And so yeah, I believe that you can upload them here, and yeah, you can copy it from there. It's cursor.directory, and you can also find MCP servers there, and you can also find some helpful rules. So that's first thing. The second thing is minimizing the context window, which is probably the most important thing. So also, one of the things why I chose cursor is that. Okay, first I need to explain the problem, right? So you have like a large code base. You need to, and LLMs give good results only when you give them only like a small context window. If you give too much information there, it will start hallucinating very quickly. So what you want to do is only send like a meaningful part of the code base to the LLM for processing together with your prompt, right? And so how do you do it? So how this works behind the scenes is that Cursor uses they index your database, or they index your code base, and they do it probably, I don't know the implementation, but most likely they do it using some technique called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Have you heard about it? Some of you? No? So this technique basically means that you send for example, like the whole code base to the Cursor server. Then they will tokenize it and vectorize it, and then they will save it to some vector database that they choose. And why they are doing it? They are doing it because vector databases can do similarity search very well, which means that if my question is about, I don't know, imagine I am trying to index like a manual for like a Volvo car, right? And so what I can do is to give the whole manual for the Volvo car to the LLM, and but it would be very long, and maybe it wouldn't even find what I'm looking for. But if I do something like I only ask for the relevant parts of the documentation or of the manual for the Volvo car, then I will get only, for example, like chapter about opening doors or like something like this, and then I take only the relevant part together with my prompt, and I feed it to LLM and get back the result. So this is exactly the same technique, because when I ask it, for example, if I want Cursor to do something like, I don't know, adjust like a router or give new API route to this application. So Cursor knows, like, basically, thanks to having my code base indexed, they know like only like which parts of the application code they need to send to the model of my choice, so that I get back the best results. And they do this very intelligently, thanks to the retrieval augmented generation, but they also use some other techniques. techniques. And this is like I would say the most important part. So feed only the most relevant parts to the LLM, so that you can get back the best result. But also don't forget to add the relevant parts, but don't add too much. So the more relevant it is, the better the result. And it's very important because the results can be very, very different. And also, but what you this is what Cursor does behind the scenes for you. So you don't need to do that. But what you can do is two things. First, use Cursor Ignore. Cursor ignores by default the files that you have in your Git ignore, but you can also ignore some additional project folders, so they won't get indexed, and if they're not relevant for the current task or the things that you are doing with Cursor. For example, if your code base has even front end and back end, and you're only using Cursor to generate code on the back end, then you can ignore the front end or something like that. And another thing, if you create a new session in Cursor, you ask it to do something, and it won't do, it will just start hallucinating after a while. Then, after 2 or 3 prompts, just open a new tab, just new context window, and start from the beginning. And also try improving the first prompt a bit. Don't continue in the same thread, because it will just get worse probably. So, choosing the right model. So, I've added some links there. You can see so there's something called software engineering bench and verified. This is the test or the benchmark that is most commonly used to evaluate how good an LLM is at generating code or doing code-related tasks. I believe that's the benchmark that you should look for. But also some models are better at doing certain tasks regarding to coding, and also some LLMs are better at certain languages. So you need to choose one, and also don't remember that there are multiple types of LLMs, right? So they're normal models, I would say, and then there are reasoning models. And so if you're, the more, complex the task is, and the more thinking it requires, then if you have such questions or prompts, then most likely you want to use some reasoning model. For me, O4 Mini works the best, probably, but also Claude with their two new models, Opus and Sonnet 4.0, are very, very good. So, using notepads, this is something I would say a lot of people don't know, but in Cursor, I don't have it here for some reason. Anyway, but you can basically create notepads, and notepad is, for example, just some reusable code that you can then reference in your prompt. So, for example, you can give it so if you're adding a new API route or something, then you can just write a template there, just so you can tell the LLM that so this is the structure in which you want to define the API route, and you can only reference it when you need it. So you don't need to have in the project rules, because you don't want to clutter your project rules, but you want to have, for example, some referenceable type or chunks of documents that you can then reuse. It's very, very helpful, but not a lot of people don't know about it. So maybe you do not know, but you can also search web in using Replit. So when I go back somewhere and I open a new tab, so I make it bigger. So you can basically just say @web, and you can search web. So for example, if you want to reference or fetch some data from certain website, then you need basically live information, then use this. That's very helpful. certain tasks require it. And again, this is about building the. So what I'm basically talking about now is building the context for the chat as efficiently and as quickly for me as a developer as possible, and also as well as possible, like in terms of not giving them too much, not giving there too much unnecessary information. The next thing is about documentation. So the cursor, they already have indexed like a lot of documentation. For example, if I type docs, and yeah, they have like I don't know, like .NET documentation or AWS or something, and then I can also add a new documentation. So for example, I am using some tools such as Sentry, or I don't know, like we are using it as a error reporting tool. Then I can add it there, and then I can it will index it, like it will crawl the website and index it, and then I will be able to use this documentation in my prompts. And for example, if I asked, if my prompt would be about add a Sentry error tracking to I don't know certain pages, and if I wouldn't reference this documentation, then it would use some older documentation, or maybe like it would only have the information that the LLM already have, which could be outdated, and it also there's a way higher risk of hallucination. So if you have like some technologies that you are using in a project, I would recommend adding them to docs and then referencing them. So that's that. And yeah, the next thing. This is a thing that's very, very interesting, and I hope you don't know about it, but you will really like it. So maybe imagine you have a problem like the cursor keeps using React Router 6, because that's the most recent one, and but for some reason your application is on React Router 4. I mean, like there can be some objective reasons, right? So you're using an older version of the library. And yeah, so then it's not much you can do at this point. But thankfully, there's this thing called Context 7. It's an MCP server. It's by Upstash. Upstash is a company that creates like a serverless version of Redis and also like vector search. And and they also created this Context 7 project, and it basically indexes. It basically takes a GitHub repository which only contains like some markdown files, and it can also contain some other files, but then it indexes it to the, they also use some vector database behind the scenes, the retrieval augmented generation pipeline, as I explained before, and yeah, then you can, and then it lives there. The documentation lives there. So, for example, for our startup StackTape, we added our own documentation there, and yeah, so this is their website, right? So as you can see, like the most popular one is the documentation for Next.js, and yeah, I can see like how many code examples are there, and these are for the most recent version, but you can also reference some older version, which is very cool. And yeah, but as I mentioned before, so for our startup StackTape, so it's like you basically need to create a infrastructure configuration in a YAML file, and I can show you like how it looks. Where am I? Okay, here. So let's say, right, like this is StackTape configuration for some like a full stack project, which also has some scripts and web service and Redis and Postgres database, and yeah, everything is configured in a way so that it's production ready. And but if I wanted to tell Cursor to add like a new resource there, or like edit the existing one, then it would basically hallucinate. I can because it basically just doesn't have enough information about stack tape. It's not that popular for them, so yeah, and also like there are not so many examples on the web. But when we created this, when we indexed our own documentation and basically converted it into a way that is easily consumable by these code indexing or like markdown indexing tools. So yeah, then we got a very good representation. Is this it? Probably. Yeah. And we can see like we indexed it 3 weeks ago, and it's like 94,000 tokens. And I have like an example I wanted to show, but it takes quite some time, so I won't go into too much details. But basically, when I didn't use the context 7 documentation or like the MCP server, which with the up-to-date documentation, it basically hallucinated. But then when I told it to add Redis resource, so my prompt was add Redis resource and connect it to web service. Use stack tape documentation from context 7 MCP. By telling it that, it basically created a completely working code, and everybody worked, everything worked. So yeah, this is how you can do DevOps now if you use stack tape and also with context 7 docs. Okay, what's next? Yeah, MCP servers. As I mentioned, you can see. Yeah, so I believe you all heard about MCP servers, but yeah, maybe it's the buzzword, but it's basically just a standardized way for LLMs to come in or to use some tool. For example, LLMs can use tool. For example, they can call I don't know, like some JSON or API, right? Like just do some fetch or something, and the MCP server is basically some like stricter definition of how to interact with these tools, so that we can when we standardize it, then it's better for everybody. LLMs hallucinate less, and people can create like way more tools around it. And so, for example, you can have an MCP server for Docker, and you can tell Docker like, show me logs for this container, and it will, and you don't know like what the container ID is or something, but it will list for the running containers, and then it will assume which of the containers you want it to show logs for, and then it will show you the logs using Docker logs command. So you don't need to remember all the Docker CLI stuff, and so it can be helpful for these kinds of things. And yeah, you can find the list of MCP servers in the cursor directory that I mentioned, or here. It's a tool that where you can find a lot of. It's called glama.ai/mcp/servers, and you can find a lot of different MCP servers there. So yeah, quite cool. And you basically installing them is very easy. In cursor, okay, I have it somewhere. Nope. Cursor settings, and MCP tools, and I have the MCP tool for context 7 that I showed you before running, and I can add more. And it's basically I just add one entry to this JSON, and I basically just tell it like how to use the server. You can find how to do this everywhere. So next thing. Yeah, removing technical debt. So this is more important because LLMs generate a lot of junk code, or like not that well structured code, or like not code that follows the best practices for your project. So I believe when you're vibe coding, that it creates more technical debt. And also when you have technical debt, so your application is not well standardized or doesn't use the latest best practices, then it will definitely it will be much harder even for LLM to do good job. So it will just keep going, like more and more technical that will start growing. So that's why I would say it's way more important for you to check or look for or to remove technical debt as much as possible. And this is also where LLMs can help, because I can basically ask, like, are there any, am I breaking any practices, or do I need a better structure for my code? And it will basically tell you, like, okay, you can do this better. You can, adjust the file structure somehow so it's more, so people better understand like how it works and stuff like this. So yeah, you can basically prompt it. It will tell you, and it can also edit it for you. So it's not like you will need to refactor your whole code base on your own. Like some twice a week or something. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Also, I don't have this from my head. I heard it from the guy that works at Cursor, and they had some like tips for optimizing their workflows, and this was probably second most useful tip that they had. And yeah, that's my talk. And as I mentioned, I'm from StackTape. If you're interested in deploying your applications to AWS without the hassle, and so yeah, then you can check out StackTape. It's basically like a Heroku-like platform as a service that takes your code and deploys it to AWS. And yeah, thank you. Now is the time for your questions.